Welcome to SnooSec, everybody. I have done this in a while, so I might be a little bit rusty, but I'm Lisa Liebig. I'm a longtime Reddit employee here, and right now I'm on the GRC team. I'll be moderating this little panel, but really I'm just here to facilitate this for you guys. We are a little short on mics, so I'm going to ask you to kind of pass these back and forth a little. Just start off and introduce yourself, what you're known for.
I'm Steve Wilson. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Exabeam, which is a company that's been using AI to do cybersecurity for over 10 years. More recently, we've also been doing cybersecurity for AI. About 3 years ago, I wrote the first draft of a paper called the OWASP Top 10 for Large Language Models, which became pretty popular, and we formed what's now called the OWASP Gen AI Security Project, which has about 25,000 members. We published about 30 white papers. And I wrote a book for O'Reilly called The Developer's Playbook for Large Language Model Security.
I'm Rajan Kapoor. I am the VP of Security at Material Security, which is a company that's only been around for about 10 years. So has not been, was lucky enough to be a very modern company, and I've had the opportunity to help put in modern security controls, which a lot of people struggle with because you're at larger companies that have been around forever. I have been around forever, like other speakers. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, which means I've been able to see the evolution of on-prem to cloud and now to AI. And what a fun time to be alive. I mean, I know there's a lot of doom and gloom, but as a security person, what a fun time to be here, right? I'm from New York City originally. I have to drop that in every introduction that I say, New York proud. But got to see, really the evolution of the cybersecurity industry from not really existing to where we are today. And I think a lot of the lessons that we've learned from the past are just as applicable, are just becoming more applicable today. And so, just having been in a bunch of different industries, it's really fun to just apply those lessons to what's happening in security, right now.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm Allie Howe. Most people know me from the Insecure Agents podcast. We're an AI security focused podcast that services the latest trends and interesting conversations before they break. Hopefully, we had the Peter Clodbot guy on 2 months before he went viral. So that's our claim to fame. But I also, just like Steve, have helped out with the OS Agentic Security Initiative. I helped write number 5 on the OWASP Top 10 for Agentic Applications. They came out in December. And I've also been working on a startup myself.
Awesome. Very cool. Hey, everyone. My name is Clint Gibler. Hey, Colleen. So I guess before I say any more about me, I just wanted to say a huge shout out to Reddit and everyone for hosting this event. I've been to a number of them, and the people I meet are always amazing, and the speaker is always great. So you should definitely come again. Highly recommended. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm currently the head of research at Semgrep. We're a code security company. We've been lately doing a lot of stuff with AI and AppSec as well. I'm not going to talk about it now, but feel free to ask me later about it. I also run the TLDRsec newsletter, where I try to turn my unhelpful habit of chronically reading everything on the internet and channel it to something productive, so you can benefit from my suffering. I mean, enjoyment at reading all about security and putting it into a short free newsletter. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Just to start everybody off, we've got a few questions here. Earlier, Alex Stamos was talking about our shift towards more agentic AI in security operations. What do you think that the biggest risk vectors are of that shift?
All right. I spend all my time living in SOX. That's our primary customer at Exabeam. And I think the fact of the matter is the trajectory that we're on right now is we are over the next few years, we're going to have 10 times the number of employees inside every company. just 90% of them are going to be digital. We're going to have 10 times the number of hackers that we have today. I think Alex did a really good job of sketching that out. What that means is you're going to have 100 times the amount of data and noise conservatively that you do today. And your only hope is to have agents at least partially running your SOC. I don't think there are going to be any unemployed SOC people, because we're going to need every single one of them to become a team lead and step up and basically organize and marshal that army of agents that's got a chance at keeping you safe.
Yeah, we also have a huge code review problem where it's so easy to write code now that we're not reviewing code as fast or as accurately as we want to. And now that anyone can write code, they might not have been trained in what good code architecturally or certain security wise looks like. So we need to make sure that we've got potentially agentic solutions there to scan all of that code correctly and make sure that we've got eyes on all of that too.
I think there's a twofold problem. The first is like slowing down the business, right? Like that is something that security teams have with every evolution of technology. We make the mistake of trying to like wrangle what's happening. None of us had like agentic AI on our roadmap like a year and a half ago as security teams, right? And now we do. And so like moving quickly to help employees work securely without slowing them down is going to be hard. But at the same time, also on security teams themselves, I'm very cognizant of this at Material, like trying to build everything yourself, like is going to actually create more overhead eventually, right? Like if you're just like, oh, well, we can just go vibe code that and like have this thing. It's a new surface area you have to manage. It's a new surface area you have to keep up, and it's a new surface area that could be a vulnerability eventually, right? So I think keeping your team like focused on doing the right things with AI, while also enabling the business to just keep doing what the business needs to do. If you're doing your job the same way you were a year ago in any part of the business, then you're doing it wrong. And so how do you do that when the people who are in a lot of cases drafting like your AI use cases are on the legal side of the house and have never, ever, ever really worked with this technology before, just like the rest of us, right? Like how do you keep the company moving forward?
Yeah, I have maybe a spicy take about more code security or AppSec, but do we want to just talk about SOC stuff now? Or
You are welcome to take all the spicy takes you would like.
Okay, cool. So here's my pitch for why coding agents are going to make software drastically more secure. So Alex and I, we can fight after. I'll lose. He's very fierce. Okay, so I think everything that Alex called out before, definitely 100% true in terms of the skill that you need to find vulnerabilities, definitely going down as AI gets better. The ability to exploit at scale, definitely that's becoming easier. So everything he said in terms of there's going to be more bugs, exploited faster, easier by less skilled people, that's all definitely true, and I don't disagree with that. But here's, let me offer some reasons to be hopeful, perhaps. So think about how secure code training works today. So like when an employee is onboarded, we're like, here's like 50 things that you're going to forget tomorrow. And maybe we train them like once a year, right? So like, and developers are very good at building software and meeting functional requirements, but they don't have security expertise, right? So if you have like 10,000 people writing code, like imagine teaching them security expertise and having them always think about it all the time. Like that's really hard, right? Now, imagine instead we have like a single sort of choke point in what is actually writing the code, say a coding agent, whether that's Claude Code or Codex or something else. And imagine we could embed that security expertise so that it's always on. We can sort of fine tune it once and deploy it everywhere such that everything in both the planning stage as well as in the code generation stage is like looked at by like a carefully crafted prompt that we write as security experts and we deploy everywhere at the same time. Like to me, that is a very hopeful thing compared to hoping that we can teach developers once, like, oh, do this thing securely. So I think that seems very scalable to me. And also, just like the ease with which security teams, like security engineering teams, can build secure by default libraries, infrastructure, tooling, like the capabilities, to Alex's point, like Meta, Google, Facebook, Netflix. Yeah, they all have teams of security engineering SWEs that can build amazing internal things carefully crafted to their environment. But like, who has that many people? But now people with security expertise can now essentially become like senior level SWEs at the same time and build these amazing internal secure by default libraries, frameworks, things like that, that can now solve classes of problems by construction that would have never been feasible before. Like, I think if you've tried to use a coding agent, you probably had the experience where something that you'd never would have even bothered to do because it would have taken weeks or years, you can do in like an afternoon now. So I think the challenges are great, but I think the opportunity for solving problems that would have been infeasible before, some of those feel more tractable to me. Also, mass rewriting code at scale, automatically writing like security regression tests. There's many types of things that we would have never dreamed of even tackling that seem more tractable now. So I think the challenges are great, but I think the opportunities are great too. So, security people are very much, tinfoil hat, what can go wrong? That's great. We should still consider that. But I think there's also great positive opportunity and reason to be optimistic as well.
Yeah, I agree with the optimism too. And I think Alex was talking about how attackers are using AI agents or LLMs to enable them to do better, faster, stronger attacks. So how do defenders also use that same technology? And I think it's in products that enable the agents to do better work, products that are built such that they provide building blocks for agents to use them more effectively. And I think a good example of that is a conversation that I had recently with James Cowling, CTO of Convex, on my podcast. And he was talking about how Peter, the founder of OpenClaw, is using Convex for its backend. And the Convex team found that the way that Peter had vibe coded Convex was a little bit inefficient. His bill was higher than it could have been. And so James went to Peter and said, hey, like, what if like we were talking to your agent and we automatically spun up a PR so that you could just merge that and then your inefficiency would be fixed. And Peter was like, I don't want to look at a PR. Like, Convex, you understand your building blocks way better than I do. And this is also, he's like a very good engineer. This could have been a vibe coder, by the way. It's like, you understand this so much better. So why don't you just tell my agent what to do, make better code, and then it'll just do it automatically. I never have to look at the PR. I never have to worry about it. Everything just works. And that's such a magical future and so exciting to me, because if you've ever sat on a security team that's like a centralized team in a larger company, and you've had to experience that feedback loop between engineering and security that's super slow because security can't get engineering to prioritize the fix, and engineering doesn't really trust that security knows what they're doing, and this fix isn't going to break the software. And it's just this painless, endless loop that can be closed now with agents. So I agree with the optimism, and I'm excited about it too.
Well, given that you've kind of touched on this already, stuff is changing really fast for people who are already in the industry. Do you have any advice for people at the beginning of their careers or coming into it, like where this is going to go?
I think you have to just start, and credit to Steve, because a year ago I actually didn't really know much about AI security, but I picked up his book, The Developer's Playbook for AI Security, and I learned a ton. I was like, I just need to dive in and just start learning and just be curious. And I think over time we'll see the divide of who's just started become larger and larger. I mean, you can already see that with software engineering and coding agents, by the way. The people that are picking up the Ralph Wiggum loop or technologies to run coding agents as they sleep, manage multiple ones at once. One person can feel like an army now if you know how to use the technology the right way. And I think that divide's going to get larger and larger too as we progress. And for enterprises, what I think this looks like is in the next year or so, who's figured out the context graph, which is this idea where your AI agents can traverse this data ontology that maps how the event clock or decisions were made at an enterprise. So not just why was the sale closed? Or not just hey, the sale was closed in Salesforce, we won this deal, but why did we win this deal? And agents can't do that without proper AI security in place. So you can't traverse the graphs in the node if you don't have agent identity figured out, for example, or logging, all of these problems. But the idea is if you do unlock that ability to walk that context graph, you can predict outcomes, you can model behaviors, make better decisions. And so that's not just agents that are completing static tasks anymore. These are agents that are doing extremely powerful, huge, insightful work. And the people that actually start figuring that out are just going to be miles ahead than the people that are still just waiting on the sidelines.
I'll double down on Ali's just start comment. 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about Gen AI security because nobody did. And so I just started, did this one die? Oh, there we go. All right. So like I'm doing double down on her comment about just start. 3 years ago, I wrote the first OWASP top 10. I didn't know anything about Gen AI security because almost nobody did. I just started. I threw something out there. A bunch of people flocked around and everybody said, I mean, nobody could have written that first document. What we built was a group of 100 people that all piled in and just started doing work and exchanging ideas, and something good came out of it. And there's never been a time right now. I mean, look, all of you, I bet 99% of you, your first experience doing computer programming or cybersecurity was not in a class you took. You just dove in, somebody put you in front of a computer and you started figuring it out. Maybe you got a degree, maybe you didn't. There's never been an industry like this where your degree was not necessarily your entry for. And now it's just like there's resources all over the place. There's tools all over the place. If you haven't built your first OpenClaw agent yet, what are you doing? You're going to go, but it's scary and it's insecure. Yes, that's why it's so fun. Just get out there and do it.
So my advice is, I think there is, and Alex called out this in his presentation earlier, there's going to be AI native people coming into the workforce, right? And they are just going to think about problems differently. We are old. We have to adapt our ways of thinking to a new way of living, right? They are going to just come into the world with this being normal. And there's a reason that you see a lot of you see a lot of innovation coming from young people. It's because they think about problems differently. So my advice is, if you're starting out, like, embrace the fact that you don't know what's going on and think about things differently, right? For those of us who have been in the industry, right, adapting is hard, but we have experience, right? And don't forget that the fundamentals are always the fundamentals, right? I was thinking earlier during the last presentation about how there are all these MCPs that people are like leveraging. They're doing a bunch of stuff, but the endpoint is like almost more important than ever before, because like, where are they pulling data out of the systems that it's in and moving it into other systems? It's on their endpoint, right? And we know endpoint management, right? Like, so just applying like tried and tested and true models of security. It's not going to get you all the way, but it's our advantage as like practitioners who've been around for a while. But then also, like, if you have younger employees, like, listen to them, right? They are thinking about things in a different way. And yeah, they may get the fundamentals wrong and you have to teach them, but they're going to have some good nuggets of insights. And these are the future, like, entrepreneurs who are going to start the next, like, service, the next level of services that, like, are just AI native services, right? And so, yeah, I guess that's my advice for, like, whether you're starting out or whether you're already here, just this, like, lean into the strengths that you have, and hopefully things will be fine, I guess.
Thank you. Oh, just super quick tactical things. This is maybe embarrassingly obvious, but AI is very patient and you can just ask it tons of dumb questions. So if you're like, hey, you wrote some code for me, like, explain how it works, or I'm thinking about using this library, like, how do I use it, or things like that. I also, if I'm deciding between specific technologies, or it's like, hey, I need a TypeScript library that can take PDFs and like break it into individual image slides or something. So I'm like, do an extensive web search of all the different options, way, stars, actively maintained, features, give me like a summary table of like why I would use one versus another. Just very like basically things like that can save a ton of time. Also similar to, it's a lot of work to maybe customize your Vim or Emacs from scratch. So there's lots of starter templates. One that I just wanted to quickly call out. So the Trail of Bits folks have a bunch of nice recent GitHub repos. So they've got like, they've been very thoughtful about, here's good Claude code sort of basic installs. So you can just like basically clone the repo and be like, yo, install all these defaults for me, and it walks you through. Also, shout out Dan Guido, who is here, the CEO founder of Trailbits, and so they've released a lot of cool stuff. So I used that recently. That was super nice. They also have repos on if you want to sandbox Claude, so it doesn't do bad things like rm-rf. They have a repo for that, or like spinning up a DigitalOcean instance that you can just burn down after you're done with it. So yeah, basically ask AI a bunch of questions. It doesn't think you're dumb, unlike maybe your colleagues. So that's nice. And yeah, there's a lot of just nice free GitHub repos out there that can sandbox things or just have nice sane defaults for you. So some quick like tactical thoughts.
With OpenClaw coming out, it's been very easy and sometimes terrifyingly easy for people to create very powerful agents. What's the most creative use you've seen so far? Or a particularly novel application you appreciate?
Well, I'll just tell a quick story. I'll tell you what I built. So I wanted to do something, and I'm an executive at work, so I have an administrative assistant, which is amazing. She runs my life. Problem is my personal life is in shambles because I don't have a executive assistant. So I'm like, I'm gonna build one. And I did, and I set it up. I very carefully did it. I'm gonna treat this like a full human. This is not running on my laptop. It doesn't get my credentials. Made it its own Google ID. I gave it its own email address. I gave it its own calendar. Said, you're my admin. You get delegated access to send me invitations and manage my life. And started using that for a week or two. And then I started introducing it to people at work. I said, hey, why don't you send, so-and-so an introduction to yourself at, work. Introduce yourself to the chief marketing officer. Introduce yourself to the CISO. Sending an email, having your AI agent send an email to the CISO is like inviting a vampire into your house. So I'm gonna tell you a very fresh story because it's fun and it's fresh because I woke up this morning and I had a Teams message from the CISO. I introduced him a few days ago, and he says, "Steve, Lobot needs a security check." That's the name of my lobster bot. And I'm like, uh-oh. So I go talk to the lobster bot. I'm like, what'd you do last night? He starts telling me, well, I got all those emails from you and I did all the things that you asked for. And I'm like, uh-oh. So he'd hired a professional red teamer to go in and red team my little home OpenClaw bot. And I will say, I put some effort into trying to secure it. And I will say it resisted all attempts to cough up my API keys and a bunch of other things. It did very confidently cough up all the source code to the custom tools that I had built and a bunch of other things that I wouldn't want it giving away. But going back to that, how do you learn to do new things? Dive in and do stuff. I know as much about the theory about securing agents as anybody in the world, but if you don't go do it, there's all the little edge cases that somebody chipped away at. And I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. So follow me on LinkedIn if you want to see a write-up about this next week. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I think also if you try something and it doesn't work the way you think it's going to, or it doesn't go the way you planned, it's fun to publish that too still. So I also tried my own OpenClaw deployment, and we talked about it on a live stream with BrowserBase. And one of the things we tried to do was throw a bunch of exploits, and I tried to use the "What would Elon do" skill that I think Jameson O'Reilly had published originally. That ran a "What would Elon do" thing around whatever question you answered, but then in a separate file, it had hidden instructions to call out to a remote server. But when I tried that with my OpenClaw connected with Opus 4.5, it wouldn't do it. No matter how much I said I trust this or I built this, it's okay. And he's like, no, it's calling out to remote server. That's dangerous. I won't do that. But originally, it wasn't. Most people got victimized or fake pwned by this skill. So I think we're patching things a lot faster. Models are getting a lot better. I mean, they're not. That's not a foolproof strategy. You still need defense in depth around prompt injection and stuff. But it's fun to just try things and publish the results, like you said.
I'm going to move a little bit away from OpenClaw for a second. For me, it's not about the what, it's about the who. It's like just before I came here today, my VP of go-to-market pulled me aside. He's like, hey man, we have our one-on-one. Can we just spend it vibe coding? Because I just want to get started. I have some ideas. And we spent an hour in a conference room, and I walked him through how to do, he wanted to do some boring go-to-market stuff, like business value, like assessment for a company. And he's like, I just want to build this thing and I want my team to use it. And like, I don't even know how to get started. And like within 25 minutes, we had like a prototype built for what he was trying to do. And just watching him go through this like growth experience of like, oh, okay, like I can do stuff that like I never in my lifetime thought I'd be able to do. Like I can build something. I can build something with code, right? That was awesome, right? And so for me, it's there's a lot of interesting things that are happening out there, but I think it's the who is now finally just like being able to be creative with their like with like what we have in front of us. That's like the most interesting to me. There's a hand up. Are we doing questions now, or are we like, yeah, cool.
Hi. What would you build with software factories?
With software factories?
Yes, like maybe you saw the Strong DM article where they're just not reading any code, not approving code, just merging everything and building huge amounts of stuff.
I mean, nothing that touches like sensitive data for sure. You know, I think you'd probably sticking to like I don't know, just like I think there's still a security aspect to this where I don't know I'm there yet where I can just be like, okay, we just like push stuff out. But if we just had software factories, that's a really hard question to answer because like, what wouldn't you build, right? Like if you assume everything has like an MCP server and API, and you know how to do like good secrets management, right? Like, you can literally stitch together like the entire world, right? So I don't really know. I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer that question. It's so open-ended.
I'll take just one thing to just stretch your mind. What would I build? I don't know. But here's the thesis that's going around right now is if you look at the difference between our ability to write code with LLMs from 12 or 13 months ago to today. I mean, I had my first vibe coding experience. I found a printout of a basic video game I wrote in 7th grade on a set of dot matrix printer on the garage. And I wanted to see what it was. So I took pictures of it and I gave it to ChatGPT and I said, this is a basic video game from 1981. Can you make me a double clickable HTML JavaScript version of this that will run on my Mac? One shot. Kind of amazing, right? Like 150 lines of code though. And it was this clunky workflow and that was about as good as things were. And then by summer, I'm managing 50,000 lines of Python code and it's kind of like not hanging together real well. And at this point, there are major software companies saying, no, we don't actually write code by hand anymore. And that curve, there's no evidence that curve is going to slow down. So fast forward out another 12 months. And the question people in the know are asking is what happens when the sort of the incremental cost of building new software drops to approximately zero. And there's a bunch of things that are going to get solved for that, but it's going to cause a lot of disruption. And so I think there is going to be an unusual onus on coming up with good ideas about what to build. That used to be like the little piece of the equation. And, everybody knows an entrepreneur who wanted the VC to sign a non-disclosure agreement because you're going to steal my idea. And they're like, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's all about execution. This will flip on its head over the next few years. It's going to get so easy to build stuff. It's going to be, can you come up with a good enough idea about what to build?
Yeah, just a quick clarification. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, David, but I believe when you said software factory, you had like a specific definition in mind, which is that correct? Okay, sort of. Yeah, so the idea, brief background. So originally humans writing all the code, then you're going to like ChatGPT and you're like, write this function for me. And then you copy and paste it. And then you're like cursor and you're like autocomplete. And then you're like, oh, you have coding agents that are like writing a little bit more. And so it's like, boom, 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 going along. And if you keep pushing the edge of like how long in a single session agents can run, and then also how much is the human involved versus are things doing totally autonomously. There's been a few blog posts that I think that have been influential in this space. Also, harness engineering is another related term you can Google. But basically, I think what was it, like Strong DM or someone like that, as well as an Anthropic blog post, an OpenAI blog post. Stripe, I think, has had 2 blog posts on this. But basically, the idea is, how can we set up a series of agents such that maybe the human just provides a very detailed spec, and then one or more agents collaboratively are like fleshing out the PRD, breaking things down into tasks. Maybe they're writing some code, but there's also a QA agent that's looking at it. It's setting a set of like acceptance criteria. It's running the server, going to that web app in a browser, looking to see if it's fulfilling requirements. Be like, oh, I broke this thing. The build is broken. Let me fix the build. Okay, let me write the test. Oh wait, this one test is failing. Let me fix the test. And just like that whole back and forth process. Many agents coordinating across maybe even hours, days, or weeks to produce tens or hundreds of thousands of lines of code without human involvement, and fleshing out and breaking down tasks as well as auto-validating if they are working correctly. The idea that the software factory is like, how do we build the harness, the integration, the automated testing, the auto-validation, such that we have high confidence in the results, such that we're not reviewing all the code ourselves. So that's the idea of sort of a harness engineering or software factory. So yeah, I'll try to link to those articles, but that's kind of the idea I think he was hinting at. So there's lots of interesting work being done in this space.
Thanks. Allie, you want to go?
Sure. I mean, kind of related to that. I remember like Alex was kind of talking about the compliance industry and how like, even if you have a perfect SOC 2 report, you could still, get breached, and it doesn't, who knows whether it means a whole lot or not. Maybe I won't comment on that specifically, but, I think that, as agents change so quickly and like, because like we can just like stick security now into the agent harness itself, and things can just change so rapidly there. I'm not sure that it makes sense to have like static like pen tests or static SOC 2 compliance reports anymore, just because the things just change so rapidly. Like, why would this document from 12 months ago be relevant now? So I'm really excited about like new standards that are potentially like emerging around this to help us assess AI generated code, AI agents, products better. Because there's so much to figure out, like you said, in terms of like, how do we optimize this like AI agent harness to ship like better code that software factories produce? How do I evaluate that this vendor, this product is secure?
Yeah, building on that, one thing that we're on the cusp of is like continuous testing of like vendors can now be a thing, right? And what I mean by continuous testing, I don't mean like just you're pen testing the shit out of your vendors all the time, but maybe you are. But even just like seeing what their application is doing in your environment and like baselining it and like seeing deviations from that and like, or seeing no one's actually using it. So why do we still have like you just have this ability to like wrangle your arms around this third party risk, third party management risk that like we've never had really accessible before. And so just that, I think that's going to switch, that's going to turn a little bit of the industry on its head, because like we might even be like, who cares about a SOC 2? Like, I'm just going to hammer you and I'm going to see what's going on in my environment. And I'm going to, and like, if I find something, I'll like, it's one thing to like, if we do this in the industry, we evaluate a piece of software or we evaluate a service provider, and then every year we'll like send us your updated docs, but like we're not, it's performative. It's not really doing anything. And I think we are about to go from performative to actual like security in that arena.
A few times we talked about how fast this has all changed and that you couldn't have predicted where things are now 6 months ago. Just for funsies, do you have any predictions right now for where we might be in 6 months?
We're not trying to sell anything. So.
I'll skip past 6 months and go to 18. Be ready to see free roaming androids walking around the street all over the place all the time. And you think you're going to have fun securing the software AI agents? Wait for the hardware ones. I have my Android on. For those of you who don't know, I have a robot dog that I imported from China about 12 months ago. His name's Zero. I've learned all sorts of lessons about embodied agent security, including having little kids hijack his voice interface and try to drive him into a lake. They're like, the little security expert in the back of the 8-year-old's brain is going, oh my God, there's an unauthenticated interface on the front of this dog. And it's like, Just you wait. So yeah, I ordered the Android from the same company, and it should be here next month. So be ready.
I think over the next 6 months, it becomes very obvious, and because of the pain that developers are going to face around the missing infrastructure that we need to, have AI agent software factories or unlock enterprise AI and walk the context graph to that enterprise organization. Some of that missing infrastructure looks like, I don't know, new like compute resources. There's all these new sandbox providers spinning up to provide like better performance for agents and potential security. Also, there's also new like agent auth providers trying to solve like goal-based authorization, which is some interesting combination of an agent's permissions and a user's permissions to be able to go and accomplish a task. Right now, that's pretty hard to do. There's all these different like new standards emerging. It's hard for developers to keep up with it. It's a very difficult problem as they explore different use cases now, like storing agent memory, who can access the memory, trying to figure out like what resources and maybe like what tools and MCP servers that we're allowed to connect to, and how do we connect to them that were maybe unforeseen when we created the agent itself. It's going to have to talk to things we didn't expect it to when we created it. So how do we handle those problems? And I think the infra problems are going to see something that we dive into more over the 6 months.
All right, I'm going to say something. It's kind of doomy gloomy, and I really don't want to say it. I think we're going to see attackers leverage AI to go kinetic, or like come from digital into the physical space with an attack in the next 12 months, given everything that's going on in the world right now. I think there's going to be some like at scale, like physically impacting thing that happens. And when it's traced back, it's going to be like, oh, they were able to do this because the kill chain leveraged some sort of like AI to do some sort of, something at scale. I have no way of controlling that, so I'm sorry I've given this to you all, but that's something that does keep me up at night.
I think this isn't necessarily 6 months. This is maybe 6 months to 2 years, and I'm gonna mix in some low confidence with high confidence things. So like, don't quote me on this, or at least caveat it heavily. I think it's clear that most of software will be written by agents, perhaps humans driving agents. I think there will be drastically more vulnerabilities found in software and more easily weaponized and more easily sprayed across the internet. One study a few colleagues and I did, this was like a few months ago, not even with the latest models. There were a bunch of people doing research that was like, look at all these crazy ODAs we're finding, and we've got this awesome product we're selling you. And we were like, like coding agents seem pretty good. Let's just give a very basic prompt to coding agents and point them at popular repos and see if they find ODAs. And they did. There were a bunch of false positives, but it was like a 10-line prompt. It wasn't even that good. It was like 3 generations of models ago, and it was already finding ODAs in open source projects that had like 10,000 stars or something. So it's like, clearly, if you actually tried, you're going to get better results, and the models are better now. So clearly, more vulnerabilities, faster. It's unclear, or it's going to take a little bit of work for us to get better at patching. So I think there's been a lot of research in taking CVEs and like auto creating exploits, patch diffing, going from patch diff to exploit. All of these are like, I would say, partially solved problems by like amateurs, not even nation states, like already. Like I read blog posts about this like every other week. Hopefully patching at scale and maybe secure defaults and then distributing secure defaults helps raise the security bar overall, but I think that will happen more slowly than attackers. I do think there's going to be some large, drastic negative outcome due to over-privileged AI. I think we've seen like minor things, but I think there's going to be big things, echoing what you said. And I think even people at Foundation Model Labs feel like there's a lot of uncertainty what the world is going to look like 6 months from now, and they're the closest to it, and they're the ones building it. So yeah, I think lots of uncertainty. Last thing, this is kind of a bummer, but it's hard to imagine companies hiring as many junior people, because out-of-the-box models without any scaffolding are better than them and infinitely cheaper. So I think to Alex's point, in like a talk I gave in like 2024, I was like, what does the on-ramp for juniors look like? shrug. And that I think is continuing to be the case. So hopefully people invest in juniors and eventually they become seniors, but that's like a big cost organizations don't have to take. So I think teams will be smaller and higher leveraged. So agree with the points Alex made earlier.
On that note, I'm going to ask one more question here, and then we'll go to audience questions. What's one thing that gives you hope about AI developments in the near future?
Just because I want to take the flip side of that one, I'm not worried about the juniors. The juniors will not need the job from us 2 years from now. They're like, why would I go work at a company with 10,000 people when I can just build their product and put them out of business? So I think we're going to be in a weird, wonky transition phase right now, but I would be ready for these things to get so good that it's really going to be around how motivated are you, how creative are you, and this group coming out of school now is AI native. I mean, my daughter's in college now. Thankfully, she's at a college that doesn't deter you from using AI. It's required in all of her classes. And they're like, turn in your prompts with your homework. I want to grade your prompts, not just your delivery.
Sorry, what was your question again? Oh, what we're excited about. Yeah. All right. You got me thinking. I mean, I touched on this a little bit earlier. I think that just the fact that like people can unleash their creativity, right? I mean, the attackers are unleashing their creativity, but like, you know, those of us who are not attackers, those of us who have never been able to like think of an idea and then go execute on it because it involved code and you didn't know how to do it, or you know, just like there's just going to be so much opportunity here. And I firmly believe what you're saying, which is like, look, when we went from like on-prem to SaaS, and that sounds like so long ago, but that was like 10 years ago, right? Like 12 years ago. When we went from on-prem to SaaS, everyone's like, oh, like tech jobs are over. Like, you know, like, yeah, okay, I didn't need to hire my own data center engineer as an IT organization, but I had to hire some cybersecurity folks, right? Like, I think the job market will just shift, right? And there will be other roles that are created, or the ability to do things without having to join a large company. And so I'm just, you know, if we all don't, if this doesn't go bad first, right, I think we're going to see a period of just immense innovation, immense creativity, and things are just going to look very different in a few years than they do today in a good way.
Yeah, I'm excited because I think people are going to be able to do more of what they love to do and less of what they don't like to do with all of that automation and capability. And I'm also excited about what we talked about earlier about the ability to plug security into the agent harness so that we can vibe code more effectively and we don't have to have these feedback loops between developers and security. Maybe we can make this faster, easier, more efficient for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's a very joyful and fun time to build. You can build lots of things very quickly, and that's very fun and can be addictive in a good way. And yeah, hopefully we can build secure defaults and infrastructure such that we solve classes of problems and actually make security better than it's ever been across the board for everyone and keep people safe.
Thank you very much for your answers. Does anyone in the audience have any questions now? Tony is going to come to you with the mic.
Hey, hi. Sorry to take you back to the doom and gloom scenario, but to Rajan's point about cyber physical attacks, we're kind of already seeing that happen. I work in the OT security space, and we have seen some attacks in Poland where they attacked the energy grid. So I think, and something similar happened in Mexico recently. So I see that trend accelerating more and more. The unfortunate thing there is OT people don't patch things regularly because they're just off grid and stuff. Going back to the cyber kill chain example or the note, which aspects of that do you think accelerate more with adoption of AI, and which aspects of the kill chain remain quote unquote slow as traditional?
I think finding, and we've spoken on the panel a little bit about this, like finding the vulnerabilities will be much easier, right? So like you won't see attackers having to spend like as much time doing recon, as much time like understanding like, you know, what stack is in place that they're trying to target. The slow part is going to be whenever they need to get information out of humans to complete the attack. They'll be able to, you know, maybe be more effective at it. but it's still going to move at like human scale, right? Where they're, you know, and you might have an agent talking to like a person trying to extract information out of them to complete the chain. That's going to be the slowest part of this, but I think it's just going to be much more effective at it than a regular person trying to do it. So that, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
I'll just add a related thing. I think that the thing to keep in mind is everything's going to accelerate on all sides. The only thing that doesn't is where there's a meat puppet in the middle. But you should assume we're going to get better at finding vulnerabilities, better at exploiting them. We will get better at AppSec. The other thing to do, though, is just assume at all times the same things apply. We're in an arms race, which means it's just like all the boats flight higher. So you better get better at AppSec. There seems to be an AppSec slant in here, which is cool. I used to work in AppSec and I do stuff at OWASP, but I think you're going to have to up your game in what today we would call security operations, which I think is going to change even more than AppSec. It's what am I monitoring? How am I watching these things? How am I watching what's going on my network? How am I watching what these AI agents are doing? All of those things need to come together for you to be able to basically fight this battle in real time.
Good question.
Tony, you got it?
So I guess I'll preface by saying I'm in high school, and I did kind of want to ask a question about like what you guys think about like the newer generation, like I guess the new generation of cybersecurity professionals. But the way I've gotten into cybersecurity, and I think a lot of my peers have, is through competitions like CTFs, and like we kind of get into it through hacking and doing these competitions. But in recent months, like Codex and Cloud Code, we've all kind of learned that if you use it in competition, you win, because it's like it can solve pretty much every single problem in these competitions and faster than humans. But it's also becoming a problem because there's less of an incentive for us to learn the fundamentals, for us to actually learn all the vulnerability classes and like you know, manually work through problems by hand. And I'm kind of wondering, like, do you think that competitions and like educational platforms should actually prevent students from using AI? Because I almost feel like it's inhibiting us because we're not learning fundamentals anymore, because we can win by just using AI to do it for us.
Before we answer that, like, round of applause for you for showing up here tonight. That's awesome, dude. Like, great way to spend your Thursday. No, I don't think you should. Like, that's the landscape is the landscape, right? And like AI is going to be used by attackers, and learning the fundamentals is important. But at the same time, there's a new set of fundamentals that need to be learned, right? And if you take like this tool out of the equation, you're kind of artificially like kneecapping like a response, right? And like when like we did like when we do like corpsec pen tests, like in some cases we just give the like pen test team like access to the laptops directly, right? They're just like, get on a laptop, see what you can do, right? Let's just assume you're an attacker. Like, I think you actually want to just get people further along, and AI does that. But you do need to learn like the fundamentals, and that's where like you want to find like a good mentor. You want to find a good like person who's been in the industry for a while who can teach you those things, and don't ignore it. But AI is here. Like you kind of have to be like, you know, you have to have it in your toolkit.
Yeah, and I think everybody's super pumped that you're here. But just the thing to realize is this has all happened before. This will all happen again. We've been through multiple of these disjoint things that actually at the time felt just as big as this one. And, you know, when I was a kid, it was the personal computer revolution. My dad wrote his first computer programs on punch cards. And then he brought home our first computer, weighed 75 pounds, had 8 kilobytes of RAM, and he taught me how to program in high-level languages. I never learned to program an assembler, and there were plenty of dudes with gray hair when I was coming up. We're like, stupid whippersnapper doesn't know where the registers are. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't actually understand that stuff. And, you know, at each layer, this stuff gets piled higher and deeper. I will always say, you might want to specialize in some area where you get interested and you're like, I want to go down this rabbit hole all the way down to the metal because it will give you an intuitive understanding of part of it. But it's too big and complicated for our poor little meat brains to understand this whole stack depth and breadth. So pick your battles. And I think for things like competitions, it's like, bring your biggest guns.
Yeah, I have one anecdote to add to that. So I was a judge at a recent Weave Hacks hackathon, not like a month ago, and there was a bunch of different very good competitive teams there. I mean, there was like 100 different teams, people with like staff level engineers on them. You know who won the hackathon? A group of junior high students. Like, I'm not even kidding. They actually created like a security tool. I forget exactly what it was, but you can just do things. Like, that's the power of AI. Like, your youth is a superpower. You might have more time than somebody that's 35 with a family that's got kids to go home to at night, and you've got lots of time to put into this. You're curious. You're not afraid to fail. Just go for it. You can change the world. It's exciting.
Yeah, one thing that sticks out to me is like maybe differentiating between I'm trying to win the CTF versus I'm trying to learn. Clearly, if you're using Codex or Claude Code, you're going to have a big lift in winning, but perhaps your goal, at least sometimes, is more learning. Or if you're doing Hack the Box or some other thing, you might, like, as a human, be like, okay, how am I thinking about this? What am I trying? And then using AI as perhaps, instead of solving it for you, it's like explaining like, hey, I tried this payload and it didn't fire. I'm getting this weird stack trace. Can you help me like understand what the stack trace means? Versus just pasting in the stack trace and be like, fix this for me, or things like that. My friend Daniel Miessler has a nice blog about this. It's, if you Google like Daniel Miessler, Miessler, and then like robots versus gym or something like that. And he has this metaphor of like, if you're trying to get swole and you have like a robot companion, you don't like send the robot to the gym to like lift for you, because like the point, you doing the work is like the outcome you're wanting versus some boring routine task that like there's no benefit to you or your development in actually doing it. So in that case, using AI might make sense. But yeah, so I guess I would differentiate between like, do I want the outcome or the learning? The learning, maybe use the AI more for like teaching you along the way. And then, yeah, also ask lots of questions and have it help you. But I think really, yeah, like curiosity and drive, I think are very highly leveraged in an AI world. And it seems like you have a lot of that. So.
All right. Well, I'll be working for Seth later on in life. So this will be our last question here. There you go.
Thank you very much for your insights. With the success and pervasiveness of AI becoming a certainty, who are the Luddites of this era? What are they saying? What are they proclaiming? The Luddites of this AI era.
It's not safe. That's what they're all saying. And so that's also true. And kind of our job as a security community is to, if we want to get to the good version of this, we all have a huge outsized role to play in this. And I've been saying this for the last few years. People say, where's all this going? I say there are three possible outcomes. One of them looks like Terminator or The Matrix. One of them looks like WALL-E. If you remember the second half of the movie after the garbage dump, it's everybody weighs 400 pounds in a floating couch and the robots bring you milkshakes. There's a middle ground in there somewhere. And us making this safe so we're in control of the robots and they're not in control of us, that's the big challenge. So if you want to put one big, thing in your hat, as a security community, we probably have more role to play in that than the actual software developers. Those lines are going to get super blurry, but we're the ones who can think about how do you fence these things in and get them to do what you want.
I think the Luddites depend on the profile of the Luddite depends on what industry you're talking about. Like, so for us, it's security, right? Like we're worried about security, right? My sister's a journalist, and the journalism industry is going through a tectonic shift, right? And not in good ways for journalists. You have other types of content creators, right? Who, like, whether it's film or whatever, who also are rejecting this because it's taking what they view as like art and just making it slop, right? And so I think there are some very like, let's not, we have been through this before, but like this is different in a lot of ways in that it like the impact that it has to those industries is going to be somewhat industry ending, right? And I think that what will flesh out is there will be other opportunities created, of course, but like the people who are there right now who are resisting it have a deep emotional connection to what they're doing, and they see like how like, you know, just sloppy use of AI can like ruin what they're doing. And I don't fault them for it. I think that they have a right to be, you know, like resistant to it. And then, yeah, I think it really matters on who they are, why they are resisting, you know.
I've had a few conversations with CISOs recently at CISO dinners that I've run, and also CISOs I've had on my podcast. And I've talked to them about the OWASP top 10 for agentic applications that recently came out. And I've asked them, which of these top 10 frightens you the most? And the most common answer is rogue agents, which is number 10 on that list. So how do you catch an agent that's gone misaligned, that has, you know, new goals than the ones you gave it? And how do you shut that down as quickly as possible once you realize that it's become a rogue agent? And I think that's like where we'll start to see like missing auth identity infrastructure solutions around like, how do I give this agent a credential such that I could revoke it at a click of a button based on some policy or based on my manual pressing of the button, so that I can spot and then stop a rogue agent. So I think that'll be something interesting to see more and learn more about as time goes on.
Yeah, quickly regarding what do the Luddites believe. One thing I used to get hung up on that I feel like many other people do, at least anecdotally that I've heard, is like, do the LLMs really understand? Like, are they just, you know, auto word generators based on all the weights, or like, do they really get it? And we can philosophize about it, but one way I look at it is when I give it a detailed specification of code I want to exist and like what I want it to do, and it outputs code that does that, and I can run it and it provably does that thing. I'm kind of like, who cares if it understands it? If it does the thing, it does the thing, right? If like if I was like, I have this magical oracle for you that can perfectly predict the future, and then I like it can predict coin flips, and then I flip a coin in front of you and I consult the oracle and it's right 100% of the time. You're like, can it predict the future? I don't know, but like provably it does the thing that you need it to do. So kind of whether it understands is kind of orthogonal in some respects. So questioning whether it understands or not, I would just be like, can you create a set of tests that prove if it's able to do the thing that you want it to do? And then sort of who cares?
Nathan, I think we're going to wrap this up. If we
Yeah.
can just get a round of applause for our guest